All right, my name's Chris Burns, and I have with me Brian Merrill. He is the Educational Technology Analyst for Central Bucks School District. And today we're going to briefly discuss the one-to-one initiative that Central Bucks has been working towards these last couple of years. How are you today, Brian?
I'm great. How about yourself?
I'm doing well, thank you. So let's get right into it. How long did it take the district to go from just the idea of trying one-to-one to actually having full classes implementing or grade levels or entire buildings one-to-one?
Well, I mean, we've talked about device density for a long time and trying to get as close to that one-to-one mark as possible. I guess it was 2 years ago, we did a pilot with just seventh grade at Hollycong Middle School. That lasted for a year, and that pilot went very well. So the following year, we did a seventh and eighth grade rollout at all of our middle schools. And now for the upcoming 1920 school year, we've actually fast-tracked the rollout to include 9th, 10th, and 11th grade at our middle schools and all three high schools. And the following year, we'll include 12th grade in that, and we will be full one-to-one in all of our buildings at the secondary level.
And when these students are one-to-one in the secondary, what device are they going to be using, and how did you guys come to that decision?
So we looked at a lot of machines, looking at what kind of creation of work do we want students to be able to do. So we really wanted to go with a robust device that was powerful. We wanted something that was convertible and could use a writable pen. So we feel like the pen is the linchpin of being able to do a lot of educational work on these devices.
Right.
We initially went with an HP device that was that met all of those criteria. We had tested, like I said, a lot of different form factors, from removable keyboards to the full foldable convertible that we actually finally went with. We did not have a lot of success with the HP device in terms of how rugged it actually was out in the field. So we've switched to a Lenovo device for the 1920 school year.
And obviously we don't know exactly how that new device will work. I'm sure you've tested it to some degree, but how has the one-to-one classroom environment changed the way that the teachers are approaching the content?
Well, I mean, I think it's like anything when you have a resource now that you can count on, right? Using technology in the classroom can be difficult if you don't know what you'll have and when you'll have it and exactly how it functions. So by giving teachers a consistent tool that they know that every student will have every day that all operates the same, you're able now to plan accordingly. So it doesn't, I don't also have to have kids take kind of notes without my content to support it, because I'm now able to provide students with whatever I would have given them in the classroom, be it a PowerPoint or a handout, digitally, that they can now either take notes on top of, or be able to take home with them.
So when you're out in these classrooms, now that the teacher, like you said, can basically all the content is right on the student's desk or in their hands rather than in 10 different places. How has that changed the way that the classroom looks, or hasn't it changed?
Well, I mean, I think we're still in an adjustment period where people are still getting accustomed to the device and seeing exactly what it can do. You know, all that implementation is going to be along a continuum. So we still continue with our professional development efforts. We have new teacher devices as well, so that has impacted how some of the lessons operate as well in terms of teacher placement and what they can do on that end. But we definitely see a lot less wait time in terms of transferring from one activity to another. If I want you to do this activity and then I have a word search of the vocabulary terms I want you to do, the teacher or student isn't walking around that room handing those papers out. It's right there already on the device. It's a couple clicks and it's up. So in terms of class time being wasted, for lack of a better term, we don't see that happening as much because,
right,
again, you don't have to disperse any of that material. It's just there. So we're able to capture a lot more instructional time that was lost to administrative tasks in the past.
Okay. So with maybe wait time or classroom time being more effectively used as one of the bigger pluses. What has been one of the biggest challenges for teachers specifically, not for students, but for teachers going to one-to-one?
For teachers, I think part of it is for some of them, it's learning curve in terms of their students knowing more about the device than they do. Getting accustomed to things that they didn't know they could do, like having multiple desktops, which makes it maybe easy to hide some web browsing that's going on. So some of the classroom management can be a little bit tricky because it's like anything else. You're getting used to something new. So now how do I manage that in a classroom where I didn't have that before? And also adjusting to classroom expectations possibly from the students. Like as a teacher, I can't stand up and talk over a PowerPoint anymore because you have the PowerPoint on your device. So why am I displaying it and then just narrating this PowerPoint you have, right? My lessons now need to be, I don't know if more dynamic is the term, but it needs to change to reflect what you have in front of you. So I can't instruct the same way. And I think for some people that are still learning that, that's the biggest change, is that their instruction has to change modalities.
Right. So it almost has to be collaborative, even at the dictating content. It still has to be, the student isn't just sitting there absorbing material. They have to be interacting with it since they have the content right in front of them already.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of, if you think of the flipped classroom phenomenon that's happened, where you kind of look at some of that more almost like direct instructed content at home because you don't need to do that in the room. And then what you're doing in the room is that more collaborative, that more creative, cohesive work, that deeper learning that we want students to be doing. So I think for some people, it's just kind of getting to that point.
Okay. Now, after not this school year, but the next, the school district or the upper level will be fully one-to-one. What do you see as the next step? I mean, a lot of districts have been one-to-one for a little while, and like you said before, it's very fluid as far as changing devices or changing what the teacher resources are, the student resources. But what do you see for your district after becoming one-to-one? What are you going to look for next?
Well, I think some of it is making sure we do reevaluate that device at the end of every year, and we have them set so that a student will keep their device through that 7, 8, 9 grouping, and then that 10, 11, 12. So they'll have 2 different devices over the course of their secondary career.
Okay.
So we know we have that change point almost every year where we can update that device, make sure it's the one that works best for our students. And then we're looking at kind of on either end, how do we prepare students for that experience, where at elementary, it's not necessarily developmentally appropriate to have a singular device for students, especially at the lower end of elementary, that K1, 2. That should continue to be, I'm a big believer of kind of that shoulder to shoulder when we were working with technology at those grade levels, that you're working with a partner. But how can we in those 5, 6 start to prepare students for what that experience is going to be? So we've already upped our device density at that 5, 6 grade level in kind of preparation for that, but continuing to keep an eye on, how has it affected those students and how can we make sure that they're best prepared? And then how do we continue to support the teaching and learning? So the device isn't necessarily the big piece. It's how does it impact instruction and how does it impact learning? So for us, a big piece of it is monitoring how all of that goes and how can we better support it through professional development.
Right. Is there anything else you'd like to share about one-to-one? Maybe some personal challenges or comments or anecdotes or something great you've seen a teacher do? Anything you want to share?
We've seen teachers do incredible things that they couldn't have done, prior to the one-to-one in terms of utilizing our learning management system which is one piece that we've had in here is we purchased or subscribed to a learning management system that has followed the one-to-one. So it hasn't been like a drop implementation. Everybody gets it at once, but as your students get these machines, you also get access to this learning management system.
And that you're referring to Canvas?
Yep, to Canvas. So, and one of the really interesting things that you can do in that is they refer to it as mastery paths, but based on student performance, it then drops them almost into, it's not a choose your own adventure because you don't get to choose, but if you are high performing on this task, you're going to get this differentiated task to do. If it was challenging for you, you're going to get this differentiated task. So teachers have been able to pre-plan that differentiation and then not have to hand sort those students of what path do they need to go. This assessment will kind of sort that for the teacher so that then they can focus on working with those students that have the lower end of the differentiation to get them up to speed. So being able to see that implemented and see where teachers that are still in that continuum will get there eventually are going to be able to go was really rewarding to see, this is really going to have a true impact on students.
That's great. I mean, it almost sounds like it's leaning towards universal design in the sense that now the students can almost independently work through the material, like you said, with the differentiation piece already pre-planned as students work through. Takes a little work out of it for the teacher anyway.
Well, and that's one of the great things about, using the technology in this way is the things that I always try to think of it like it replaces things that aren't the best use of teachers' brain power. Like the best use of my skill set isn't going through a multiple choice test and marking that and then separating those papers out.
Right.
So if I can use the technology for it to pre-score those for me, a multiple choice exam, and then I can focus on how do I best plan to help the kids that maybe didn't perform where I wanted them to, that's really the best use of my brain power. And that's what the technology has allowed us to do.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate your time today. You've provided some good insight on what one-to-one means to teachers, to students, and to a district as a whole. So again, I appreciate it, and good luck with the new rollout with the high schools next year.
Oh, great. Thanks so much.